And another one from Anonymous, who kind of touch on the same subject here. Father, can you explain what a dubia is? And what are your thoughts on the most recent dubia that was presented to the Holy Father?
Well, a dubia is a form of address to the Pope that's utilized when the Pope issues a decision or a teaching, and a dubia means a doubt. So there are doubts about its meaning or how it is to be implemented or the effect that it will have. And we became very familiar with dubias after Amoris Laetitia, which was the apostolic exhortation that Pope Francis issued after the two synods on the family. And in that, the Pope said in famous footnote 351 that there can be times and when people who are in irregular marriages, meaning people who are in adulterous marriages, people divorced and remarried before the first marriage has been declared null, that people in such a situation can be given the sacraments, which would mean confession and communion. This idea had been specifically rejected by Popes John Paul II and Pope Benedict. And essentially, the Cardinal Burke and a few other cardinals, there were 5 of them, became known as the Dubia cardinals because they wrote to the Pope and said, could you please help us to understand how this teaching of Amoris Laetitia is in conformity with earlier Catholic teaching, or meaning teaching up to that point by his predecessors. The Pope never answered the dubia. And when it became clear to the dubia cardinals they would get no answer, then they published the dubia, so we all came to know about them. The Pope has never answered those dubia since then. So now other dubia came in, and one of them was published just at the beginning of the Synod on Synodality, again, which concerned the Church's teaching about homosexuality. And that was pretty controversial because the answer had been given by Cardinal Fernandez, who was the head of the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith. He gave an answer which really wasn't a very good answer. So then the cardinals, Cardinal Burke and a few others, wrote again to the Pope and said, the answer given was not satisfactory. And they did that not as proud men, but as humble, saying, the truth is superior to all of us. We want to get to it. It's a little complicated, so your audience might feel getting lost. But the answer is a dubia is when you ask a question to the Pope and expect an answer, because it's not a critique directly, but it's indicating that there are problematic elements if the teaching means what it seems to mean, and if the Pope can't give clarity on why it doesn't mean something that would be contradictory of church teaching. Now, we also had dubia that were given after Traditionis Custodes, which is the document that restricted the celebration of the Tridentine Latin Mass. Those dubia were from bishops about specifics, how to implement it. Those were answered by Cardinal Roche at the Dicastery for Divine Worship. We had some other dubia that were published in December regarding whether transsexuals can be godparents. Those were answered. Then there was Cardinal Duca issued some. There are a lot of dubias that have been coming in lately. And we look forward to the answers because we want to know, is there any substance to the critiques that people make, or are we misreading the documents?